The city manager, and they'll be laughing at me, Don, and Don knows what I'm talking about. And water hydrants or fire hydrants, because we've got a lot of fire hydrants in town that, bless his heart, Kurz went through town, and they've addressed all of them, painted them. Dirtiness. As far as buildings, I see Miss Marilyn here today and tonight, and we took a trip with her and some of them and walked downtown and took a walk through the downtown, check out some of the buildings that's downtown. As most people know, the city really don't have any authority over the buildings. We would love to have authority over the building. We would love to have, be able to go in and renovate some of them or tear them down. But the city, we don't, as the city, we don't have that option because we can't. All we can do is file, write tickets, citations, or whatever to the people that would let their building dilapidate. But as far as upgrading the buildings, private property, we can't do it. So, but I think just to beautify the downtown, to weed control and striping, to me is a big plus.
Well, I think that, I've been downtown a lot actually, visiting with the business owners and talking with them. And I was fortunate enough to be able to attend a meeting recently, about 2 weeks ago, with Keep Oklahoma Beautiful. It's a coalition of different organizations, and they actually provide free cleanup things. They provide trash bags and gloves. And there's even an organization in Oklahoma City that will provide free paint. Up to 20 gallons. All you have to do is tell them what you're going to paint. And I think that would go a long way if we as the city would look to get involved with those things. Commissioners have to act. Like I said, you have to get your hands a little dirty. Sometimes that means going and finding those opportunities, going and getting the connections that you need to get 20 gallons of free paint to paint a building downtown. And all you have to do is apply. It's, grant writing is a big thing. If we can get grants from a lot of different areas, there's money out there to be had for beautifying different areas of your city. I think that our downtown revitalization group right now, it's a great group. They do great work. They need more funds. And if we as a city can assist with that in any way, I think that's something we need to do. I mean, it's an opportunity that's out there. Grant writers you can even contract a grant writer. You don't have to pay them city salary. You can pay them on a contract so they don't have any of the benefits. Find something like that, and that's where we need to be for downtown revitalization.
Don't sit down. Mr. Rowe, why or why not should we use members of the Board of City Commissioners as the trustees for the Cushing Municipal Authority, Cushing Industrial Authority, Cushing Hospital Authority, and the Cushing Educational Facilities Authority?
Yeah, that's, it didn't used to be that way. What my understanding is the boards were comprised of citizens, which I think is a great idea. The citizens need to have some ownership of those boards. When the commissioners come in and they take over all those things, then it's just their opinion against everyone else. There's really no outside input. I don't have a problem with commissioners sitting on the boards, even chairing those boards, and then reporting back to the commission as a whole with their answers that their committee has come up with, or answers to different things. I think that more civic involvement from citizens is definitely the way to go. You draw people in, you give them ownership, and then you give them a chance to show you what they can do. And it used to be that way. I really don't know why we got away from it, to be honest with you. I don't know when that happened. I need to do more research on that probably. But a board of trustees comprised of citizens that are appointed by the commission, even if they need to be, to make it a legal thing, I think is a great idea. I would love for the commissioners to sit as chairman of each of those and each take a committee. It would just make sense, and then report back to the commission as a group. And then you can make decisions if you need to on a higher level that those committees can't make decisions for. So.
It's kind of a lengthy question. Do you want
It's all right.
you want it repeated?
Well, I believe your question is why should the commissioners be the board members of those entities that you just named off, and not general public? Is that what you're?
Well, I'll just repeat it. Why or why not should we use members of the Board of City Commissioners as the trustees for the Cushing Municipal Authority, Cushing Industrial Authority, Cushing Hospital Authority, and the Cushing Educational Facilities Authority?
Number one, the commissioners are elected officials, and I believe that the people, the citizens of Cushing, would elect officials that they trusted to sit on those boards and to take care of those boards. And all the boards are kind of tied together. They're not just separate entities. They are, but they're not. They're all tied together one with another. And so therefore, by having the elected officials on those boards, then you have more of an idea of what board, if you're going to, say like if we got municipal authority and we need revenue for City of Cushing, or City of Cushing, we need revenue for the municipal or whatever, then we are already there. We know what's what, what's on the left hand, what's on the right hand, what we need to move from here to there in order to make things work in the City of Cushing. If the Cushing Municipal Authority, they need extra money for whatever it might be, we can always move it from one to another. As far as the last one, the IE, whatever it is, that's the high school. That's for the for the new middle school. And that was done through the city in order so they could get their money promptly to start building their new school. So there again, that had to do with the city. The city was involved with that, so who else better to sit on that board than the elected officials that was elected for that position?
Mr. Rossiter, what is your position on hiring an assistant city manager, and what are your expectations of their duties?
I've always said we need an assistant city manager. I feel like that our city manager is way overworked. I watch it in his daily life and his stress. I don't think you go in and look at his desks and you can see that he's overworked. I've been after the city manager ever since this one was hired as a city manager to hire him an assistant city manager. That's the reason I said earlier I would like to see an assistant manager / economic developer, or with economic development knowledge in order to work under the city manager. I've never pulled anything over our manager's eyes that I felt like he was doing. I mean, I do feel like he's doing a great job. I just feel like there's a better, capable interest out there as far as having an assistant. If he would have an assistant, I think we'd get a lot more done.
Mr. Rose, same question.
Thanks. I think that an assistant city manager is really vital, primarily because it allows the city manager to delegate. The big thing now, our city manager is overworked because he doesn't have anyone to delegate to. He delegates over to his department heads, but really an assistant manager could manage that much better. need 2 secretaries. At that point, you need an assistant city manager. A secretary to take your phone calls isn't really good enough. You need someone to be able to delegate authority to, that can make decisions and make things happen around the city.
Mr. Rowe, how should the city commission help promote and encourage new housing development within the city of Cushing?
Well, there are a few ways that you can do that, actually. Obviously, the economic developer would be able to bring more and develop a specific area. But, code enforcement is a big thing, too. We have a ton of codes on the books. I've read the city charter and all the codes top to bottom. It's a big, thick book. You have to start enforcing those codes. Make places livable. Make neighborhoods presentable. That will bring people in. That's going to bring your developers in to say, look, I can put houses here, here, and here.
Number one, I think that the city should provide utilities to the property lines of every property within the city of Cushing. And I've always said this even before I got on the commission, I believe that if you live within the city, you should have access to water, sewer, electric, especially those three. Gas is controlled, not controlled by the city. Another thing that I brought up that I'm hoping to be able to put into effect is we've got a lot of empty lots in town where we've allocated, we used to allocate, anybody that's willing to come in and build a house in that block or in that piece of undeveloped property. Is if it's going to need new sewer lines, new water lines, and these things that I feel like as a city we need to say thank you to that developer or that builder, whoever's going to build that house, and forego the tap fees of the water and the sewer. Anybody, the press or anybody can come to the public meetings and they can come in and get the books from Jericho or Trace Rowe or anybody, and not this Trace Rowe, a different Trace Rowe, Rose, Trace Rose. It's all public knowledge, so we never make any transfers from one entity to another entity without it being on the docket or on the agenda.
Tracy Rose, sorry, I couldn't resist.
Okay, sorry.
Bryce Rowe. You want to repeat the question?
No, it's fine. I think it goes back to what we talked about earlier, actually, with citizens serving on those boards. If you make the people more aware of things that are going on, you pull them in, they have ownership of that board. They're going to disseminate that information just as well as anyone else. It is a public meeting, and it's still going to be a public meeting. But if you involve the citizens, you give them a voice in what you're doing, the transparency is there. You're bringing the public in and exposing everything that you're doing, and just laying it open and saying, okay, well, here's your municipal authority. You need this. Okay, well, the commissioner comes back and says, hey, municipal authority needs this. We'll transfer this money. Great. Everybody on the board saw it happen. Everybody on the other board saw it happen. Make the citizens part of the boards. Have a commissioner lead the board, and then everything's transparent. It's that simple.
Mr. Rowe, what would you do to enhance the quality of life in Cushing?
Quality of life in Cushing. You know, I enjoy my life in Cushing pretty well right now. We have things that we need, obviously. Every city needs things. We have a great baseball setup outside of town. My kids play baseball. I'm out there a lot. So I think more things like that, you know, develop our parks a little more. We had things that were supposed to go into the baseball complex out there, walking trails and things of that nature that didn't happen. You know, for whatever reason, if they ran out of money or things happened, the developer ran out of money, whatever it was. But those things can be done. The city can take down roadblocks to things like that. We had a proposal to put walking trails and bike trails in the city park. It's all paid for with a grant, is my understanding. Take down any walls that you have. Let the city be a partner with the citizens to make life better. Listen to what they need, what they want, what they think. I think the candidate forums that we have are a great place to hear those things. You get the people out, they talk about things, they talk about what they need and what they want and what they're looking for in the city that they call home. Listen to those things, take them in, make a plan. That's it.
Mr. Rossiter, same question.
Quality of life in Cushing. In touring all the other cities that I've toured, I frequently ask this question: what's your quality of life? What do you have in your city to offer that we don't have in Cushing, Oklahoma? That's what I was trying to find out. Found out that the first thing, quality of life, is hospitals, medical, hospital. That's what people look for. If they're going to move to your town, they're going to look at what kind of medical hospitals do you have in your town. Then they're going to look at education. They're going to look at what type of school you have, what type of activities do you have. And then thirdly, they're going to look at housing. What kind of housing do you have? And then they're going to look at parks and recreations. And so those four things right there is the four, usually what people that I've talked to is looking for more than anything, if they're just going to move a business to town, or if they're just going to move to town and bring their family to town. Hospitalization, forgot the others now. What? Education, yeah, education, housing, and quality of life being parks and recreation. So, and I've asked these, okay, seconds. I've asked some of the higher management of corporations here in town, why did you move to Stillwater instead of Cushing? They're number two: hospitalization, medical, and schools.
Mr. Rosser, how do you think a city commissioner should be held accountable to the citizens of Cushing?
Accountable for what?
That's just how the question came up.
That's a broad question. Accountable, I'm going to say a commissioner, whenever the citizens elect a commissioner to represent them, to sit on the council, to be their voice at the city level for them, that there's all kinds of, believe me, I've been doing it for 9 years, you get all kinds of questions, you know, why can't you do this, why can't you do that? And there's a lot of questions that there is no answer for. There's a lot of questions there is an answer for. And I think that as a council member, you should be willing to, at any time, day or night, if a citizen has a problem, they should be able to get a hold of you, and you should be able to either help them or direct them to somebody that can help them. Normally, that's the city manager, because as everybody knows, we don't micromanage the city manager. That's his job, and a lot of things that he has control over, we control the city manager, but he controls the outside entities of whether you got a bump in your road, or whether you have a broken water line, or whether you have your neighbor's got a dirty house or whatever. He's the one that he's the go-to person, for all that, to get the yards cleaned up or whatever it might be. So to be held accountable, I think we need to be held accountable to all the citizens.
To expand on what Mr. Roster said, the city manager works for the commission. You have to manage the city manager as a commission. The city manager can delegate, he has people that report to him, but you have to make them report to him. There has to be some kind of a metric, which is a term we use a lot in the corporate world. There has to be a reportable, there has to be a goal to go against. The city commissioners, as far as being accountable to the people, we're responsible for making sure the city manager does his job. We're responsible for making sure that the water runs in your house and that the electric works. That's our responsibility. There's a place in the city code that says if you don't like what a commissioner's doing, you can have a recall election. That's ultimate accountability. If you don't like what you see, find someone else. And that's within the citizens' power to do it. But there has to be reporting and accountability from the departments up to the city manager, and from the city manager to the commissioners, which is who the city manager works for. You have to have that visibility. And that's the accountability that I think the people are looking for from their commissioners. Sure, you can reach them anytime and talk to them. They might direct you to the city manager. Great, but the city manager ultimately has to report back to the commission what he found out or what he did to rectify that problem.
Mr. Rowe,
Yes.
how can a city commissioner ensure the public is aware of the goals, objectives, and progress of all projects?
Right, yeah, and that's something else I was just talking about. You have to set up those goals and metrics within your departments. And you look at, say, a project like the Safety Center. Safety Center is a great building. We would go and hear meetings and hear people say, well, they're about done with this. Well, about done to me means about 99% done. About done to somebody out there might mean 75% done. If there's nothing that is actually reportable and a number that you can look at, then it really is very vague. I think that you set up the reporting and you get the answers that you need as a city commissioner. You have to make those things open to the public through public forums. If you have a forum in the middle of a project, lay it out for people. You don't keep anything close to the vest. Be brutally honest. Look, we're
the city council meetings, I wish we could get it better, where people could hear us better and watch it better, but I really feel like that
go to the people in the papers and on the radio and the different take the different media opportunities that you have and meet with the folks of town. I mean, it's find the
high school from Prague, Oklahoma in 1965, and he received
good old-fashioned horse sense if they watched what we did. The 6 years I was on the board, I was a voice for the center of the road. Conservative use of the city's money. We're still A lot of
But I think the most important role that you have is running
they're beyond his spending authority, or sometimes it's, boy, that's loud. Sometimes it's just because he feels like you need to be included and doesn't want to take it on himself to do something like that. Let's see, got a minute left. So with that said, the time is up. I'll take the next question. I hate to keep bringing up Andy Katz, but Andy Katz didn't want them here because they didn't sell any product and create any tax money. I guess he couldn't see that they might go down to the Styrian and eat dinner, or they might go somewhere and eat breakfast and that sort of thing. But anyway, I don't feel like that's the best way to spend our money. What we do need is somebody in a position to oversee all the different departments so that the city manager is not spread so thin. And that's where I would put the emphasis.
I would agree with his last statement, except that one of those people that we need on board is an economic developer. You know, we have our business for over 20 years, I can tell you that businesses, unless you're fortunate enough to be in a position of a Cushing,
Mr. Thompson, as a commissioner, what is your plan for upgrading and maintaining?
possible. Whether it's water, whether it's sewer, or whatever it is, I think you have to put water in there and make sure that the treatment goes by the standards that are set by the state and by EPA.
Same question. As a commissioner, what is your
Of water that we're not using, I have wanted for some time to have a filter system put out there so that we would have that if something happened to the wells, we would have that for backup and use it occasionally. So are we just talking about the water system now, or are we going to get into the other infrastructure? Just the water system. I think I've answered that. I think we have a good water system already. We add the other wells as time goes on. And we did a study, in fact, I'm running out of time. We did a study when they drilled a well out here on 9th Street.
Cushing? How would you evaluate and prioritize the most important needs of the city of Cushing?
There are any number of topics that we could get into: housing, infrastructure. When I got on the commission, the first time I had a they bought camera systems, and there's a little red van that runs around town, and what they're doing is they're running that down into the sewer system and finding the places. They still haven't found, everybody be happy to know, they still haven't found where the water system and the sewer system got crossed up.
The most important needs for the city of Cushing?
In my opinion, the most important, excuse me, the most important need we have in this community is housing. You know, over the last And the primary reason, and I'm not going to tell you that some of those people, even if we had adequate housing, would all live here. But I would say to you that if we had
Mr. Thompson, what is
from before I was here had somewhat the same problem. They had a lot of empty storefronts upstairs, on second floors, and they began to make upstairs which I believe is the most fair incentive that there is, because it's not a giveaway. So we stand to do a lot of work downtown. But I think with the help of the commission, those things can be achieved over time.
Would you repeat the question? Thing. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And different things like that going on. I'd love to see some more on the community theater. I'd like to see Don Amon put on a show. why or why not should we use them as it? Well, we already are.
For the Cushing Municipal Authority, Cushing Industrial Authority, Cushing Hospital Authority, and the Cushing Educational Facility Authority.
Well, I have no problems with a member of the commission, one member sitting on each one of those authorities. However, I think in terms of transparency, in terms of getting the taxpayers, the community, people within the community back involved. And for those people to get them involved for it, I think we ask our city manager to do way too much. I don't think we're being fair to him. And frankly, I put that fault on the commission. I think he needs help. We need to hire someone who can be, who not only is the assistant, but he also possibly be a grant writer, who can help us write grants for city infrastructure, so that we can stretch our dollars. There's a myriad of things they can do just in terms of helping Steve. I just saw in the paper that Steve has lost one of his longtime helpers. So I think it's even more critical now.
City manager, I would like to see us get an engineer on board while we have Steve here to show him the ropes. When we add another position rather than an assistant, the city manager, I'd like to see it someone who saying, they're not saying that they need more help, but they certainly deserve recognition for all the stuff that they're doing, because I had no idea what all that they actually do. Our other departments are asked that question. The city of Cushing should not be in the housing business. But we need to be doing what you just said, and that is facilitating and helping people who want to build a house. If a developer wants to build something, we need to meet them with open arms. You know, what can we do to help you? Not how many obstacles can we throw in your path to make you have to jump over and jump through hoops and so forth. But when you come down to housing, I don't like to toot my own horn, but a couple of years ago, we had a choice of whether to demolish Fontainebleau or sell it. I was the deciding vote. I voted to sell it so it could be redeveloped. And if you'll go down Little Street and look, Mr. Collins, who bought that, has done a wonderful job. There are 5 families already living in those apartments. There are 14 more that will soon be ready. And when he gets through, there'll be 50. So I think I've contributed to getting some housing in the city of Cushing, because otherwise it would have been torn down at a cost of $500,000. Furthermore, I vote for every mobile home application that comes up. It's your turn.
Would you repeat the question?
How should the city commission help promote and encourage new housing developments within the city of Cushing?
Well, I would agree with Jim in that it is not under the bailiwick of the city to be involved directly in housing. However, having said that, because of the fact that the city has utilities and plays a huge role in the development of housing, I would concur with him in saying that we need to meet developers with open arms. I'm not sure, frankly, that's happened in the past. I can remember, and it wasn't Jim, but I can remember sitting in a meeting when we were talking about housing, and all I heard was why something couldn't be done. Not one time did I hear something that said, yeah, it might not be easy, but let us check on it. Let's see if we can't get that done. Other cities and other places, Ponca City is a good example, has played a huge role in the development of housing within the city of Ponca. They were not actually the developers, but because of the role that they play with utilities and streets and that type of thing, they have to be a player. They have to be a player, and they have to be a very positive player. So most of what Jim said, I would certainly go along with, and I appreciate what you have done with Fontainebleau. But you know, we need not only apartment complexes in this community, we also need single-family dwellings.
Mr. Thompson, how can you as a commissioner make the transactions and transfers of funds between all of the authorities and the city more transparent to the citizens of Cushing?
I'll read that again.
Okay. How can you as a commissioner make the transactions and transfers of funds between all of the authorities and the city more transparent to the citizens of Cushing?
Okay. I'm not sure that I totally follow the question, but let me answer it the way I think, and you can tell me whether I was right or wrong.
I can't tell you anything.
I know that the city has a budget, and probably those 4 authorities or 5 authorities have a budget, or are a part of the overall budget. I guess I have heard that the dollars in the city are transparent, and I know they're there for people to see. The problem is, and it doesn't happen just in Cushing, It happens across America, and that is people are apathetic about coming to city council meetings and wanting to look at that. You know, the one thing that happened here 3 or 4 months ago that I thought was probably one of the best things that's ever happened was the Cushing conversation. And if we turn those authorities back over to the citizens of Cushing and allow them to play a role in it, and we get them at a meeting and let people ask questions. If it's dollars, let's be open about it, whatever those questions are. But I think the most important thing, be it dollars or anything else, we have to be more transparent and more willing to meet the public instead of waiting for them to come to us.
Mr. Hograve, do you need that repeated? Okay. How can you as a commissioner make the transactions and transfers of the funds between all the authorities and the city more transparent to the citizens of Cushing?
I think it's transparent already. What you need to realize is that the city receives the sales tax, and the municipal authority receives the electric bill and the utility bills. That's the cash cow for the city. The electric bill, the fact that we have our own electric department, and when we lose power from GRDA, they fire up our generators down there and we have just as good electric as anybody in the state of Oklahoma. I made a statement a while back that, I know that we had to use the generators the other day, and it seemed to me that the lights were a little bit brighter and everything was maybe even a little better than it was when we're getting the other. On the topic of the electric department, okay, I'm getting away from your question. Your question is transparency. Transparency, you go ask the city treasurer or the city clerk, how much money did we get off those oil wells out there west of town, and they will tell you. How are we spending that money? When I was on the commissions, some of us pushed to spend some of that money and put it back into the city lake. If you'll drive out there and drive around and look, you'll see that the Parks Department has done a tremendous amount of work out there. That's really a nice facility now, something we can be proud of. They've done a lot more mowing, a lot of cleaning up and so forth. My time's up.
Mr. Hogarth, what would you do to enhance the quality of life in Cushing?
I think life in the city of Cushing is pretty darn good already. We have 3 Chinese places to eat, 3 Mexican, burger joints. You can go on and on. We have a state-of-the-art swimming pool. We have a splash pad, which it took us quite a while to get built, but we got it built, and it's been very well received. The little children can go down there and play, and they don't have to be out there with the big kids getting pushed around. And with the splash pad, you don't have to worry about them drowning because there's just that much water and so forth. We have a nice golf course out south and east of town, which has been purchased and being refurbished, and I'm looking forward. I don't play golf, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what all they do with the dining area and so forth. Most people don't know it, but I planted the Bermuda grass on the back 9 back in about 1965 or something like that. The president of the bank, Merle Polson, asked me if I could plant Bermuda grass. Yeah, that's what I do for a living at that time. Anyway, our city lake, I already mentioned it. I'm about out of time, but we have a wonderful city lake. I learned to water ski out there about 50 years ago, and I could go on and on. But I think our quality of life is darn good already.
Mr. Thompson, what would you do to enhance the quality of life in Cushing?
I think the first 2 things that come to mind real quickly, and one I've already talked about, housing. one of the other things that I would certainly do is to maybe working through the chamber, between the city and the chamber, resurrect a beautification program, and try to. I know the city has been very heavily involved with having cleanup days and that kind of thing, and that's to their credit. But I think maybe we can take that another step and try to do some things in terms of beautifying the community, whether it's planting flowers downtown, giving awards to the residential area for the way they take care of their property. You know, there's a myriad of things, and there was an effort made here not too long ago to start a beautification committee, and I'm not quite sure what happened, but I think that effort is certainly needed. The streets in town, I think, are, of course, I think give an awful lot to quality of life. I think we need to be doing more. We're doing roughly 2 miles a construction period, and I think we need to do more of that because we've got about 65 miles of streets in Cushing.
Mr. Thompson, how do you think a city commissioner should be held accountable to the citizens of Cushing?
How
do you think a city commissioner should be held accountable to the citizens of Cushing?
We're elected by the taxpayers, and I think that's the accountability. I think we need to be much more open, much more in. I mean, if you're a city commissioner, you don't take a day off. I mean, for 3 years or until you're unelected, you are a city commissioner, and I think we need to be out front with people. I think we need to talk about what we're doing right, listen to people about what they think we're doing wrong, and always be there. It's not difficult. I mean, when you're a chamber director, you're a chamber director 7 days a week, believe me. And this is no different. You are elected to do a job, and they expect you to do it. Taxpayers pay you the money that the city runs on, and I think you have to be out front and open and available to them 7 days a week.
Mr. Hogarth, how do you believe a city commissioner should be held accountable by the citizens?
City commissioners are held accountable, but on April the 7th, they'll have a chance to vote and decide whether they like the job that the sitting commissioner is doing or if they want to replace him. That pretty well answers how they're held accountable. I pick up on something that Brent said here, and that is about being open to the citizens of the community. I guarantee you that my phone rang a lot, and they're not bashful about telling you what you're doing wrong, so you don't have to worry about that. Somebody will tell you when you do something they don't like. You can't please everybody, but you really need to be listening to the people, and that's what I get a lot out of the coffee shops and places like that is, you know, what are we doing right, what are we doing wrong? And when you go to the school that they send you to, they tell you, you don't have to listen to anybody. They elected you to represent them and make up your own mind. I don't go along with that. They're a little snot-nosed girl, and I shouldn't talk like that, but she was a city clerk at some little podunk town somewhere, and I made that statement that I felt like you need to be responsible. And she said, I've noticed that older people like you have an attitude that, you know, that's not really right. Time's up.
Okay. Mr. Hograve, How can a city commissioner ensure the public is aware of the goals, objectives, and progress of all projects?
I really don't know what you're driving at there, but if you'll repeat it, I'll do my best to give you an answer.
How can a city commissioner ensure the public is aware of the goals, objectives, and progress of all projects?
KUS Radio, the Cushing Citizen newspaper, and Red Dirt Media Group. All of those people are involved and I think do a pretty darn good job of reporting on what's going on, whether they like it or don't like it. And I think that answers your question. That's how that wasn't a very long answer, so you can turn the clock off.
Repeat it if you would.
Okay. How can a city commissioner ensure that the public is aware of goals, objectives, and progress of all projects?
Well, initially, and I think the last one we had was done in 2008, I think we need a new, call it what you want, strategic plan, comprehensive plan. And I think we need, as a commission, to bring in stakeholders, the city department heads, and figure out where it is we want to go and try to come up with a vision that we can all agree upon. The way this community is set up, city manager currently has the responsibility of making sure that the departments continue through their department heads. We depend upon the city manager to keep us apprised of the situation. I don't think, it hurts for a commissioner if there's a project going on down on Little Street to drive by and take a look. I'm not sure that I would feel real comfortable interfering in the direction that or what's going on, other than maybe just to talk to people. But we depend upon our city manager to take care of those things. And if we're not happy with it, then we need to take that up with our city manager.
Mr. Thompson, what tools would you use to better communicate with and involve the citizens in city business?
I truly believe, and they have said this about chambers of commerce for years, we are probably the worst in the world at tooting our own horn. And I think city government is much the same way. I would sit here tonight and tell you that there are many things the city does that's good. And I truly believe that. I think we've got some very hardworking people in our departments that do what they're told to do and do it to the best of their ability. I think where we fall down is we don't tell people about it. And those opportunities like Cushing Conversations, getting articles in the paper, getting them out to the radio station, getting them on Red Dirt Media about the successes we're having, what we're doing, where we're going, why we're doing it, I think would go a long way to educate our public about why we're doing something and what we hope to accomplish. I can't tell you that Don and Terry, when you had the Cushing conversation, I walked away that evening feeling better about city government than I have felt since I've been here. And I think that needs to continue. That communication, they were willing to listen and answer any question asked, and they gave reasons for why city was doing what they're doing. And we're willing to listen to complaints or to any kind of input whatsoever. Those kinds of things need to continue so that transparency is there.
Mr. Hogriff, what tools would you use to better communicate with and involve the citizens in city business?
Better involve the citizens in the city's business. One of the best things that I can think of is what we did a few years ago. We started having a study session midway between the regular meetings. That way, anyone could come in and we sat around the table. We didn't set up on the podium up there above everybody. We all sat around there and we talked about the things that were going on, going to happen, and so forth. And we got the input from the citizens. I think that's probably the best answer to your question right there. No doubt keeping the media involved and informed would be very important too. I have to make a confession. I saw some of the questions before the thing, and so I told my opponent here that his question was, how many city employees are there? But my question was, what are all of their names? So, none of you have asked that yet. So.
Thank you, gentlemen. Before you all leave, the first seat had 2 minutes to do an opening statement.
Serving my community. Honest to God, that was really the bottom line to it. I can tell you, and you can ask it, a huge chapter in your life, but are you really ready to quit doing something that you love to do, which is serving the community and being a part, an integral part of your community? And I found myself, when I first said, no, idiot, you don't want to do that, I began to think, yeah, you do. Because it's not time. You're not crippled. You're able to get around. You still have some intelligence. So you're really not ready to quit yet. So I chose to do it in this fashion. And if I'm elected, I will promise you I will bring you the same vitality, vitality that I brought to the Chamber of Commerce. This
Arms to the developers, anyone that wants to build a house in this town, I can't elaborate on that anymore. I do feel very responsible for the Fountain Blue revitalization and the 50 nice apartments that are going to be available down there in an orderly manner. Senior citizens are my weakness or perhaps my strong point. I don't know which it would be. But a couple of years ago, Project Heart decided that they couldn't feed all those people, so they were not going to feed them on Friday. Good work. I'm running out of time, but I'm not going to shut up. They did it again, only this time there were about 12 people. They could only feed 45, but there were another 12 that wanted something to eat. Again, we went around to Chinese place, Mexican place, Pizza Hut, Escott's at that time, and lo and behold, for $2, they can get salad, pizza, and their drinks are furnished. And I don't take all the credit for that. A lot of other people were involved, but I darn sure had my finger in the pie. That's the way I like to see things done. Silver Star Cemetery, and I know I'm running way over the time. Silver Star Cemetery. The old wooden caskets had caved in and they had holes. I mean literally holes there. I took my equipment out there and worked with the people
Welcome back to Don and Friends. Recently, we talked with some citizens in the community in light of the upcoming election. Let's check out the word on the street with our election coverage.